In this challenge review, we're going to script the coding animation and logic to be able to transition between idle and run. To get started, let's open up our player animation. And the first thing I need to do is I need to get a handle onto our animator so that I can access the move parameter. So to do that, we're going to say private animator, and we'll call this underscore anim. And in void start, we're going to say anim is going to equal, we're going to say get component in children because we want the animator component off of the sprite. So get component in children, and we're going to grab the animator component. Now that we have that, we can go ahead and create the logic for our move. So here, we're going to be calling this function every frame from the player with updated information on what's going on with the move here. And based on that info, we're basically going to say anim.setFloat, and we're going to grab the parameter here. The parameter name is move, and the value that it's going to mimic is going to be move. Now, this value has to be the absolute value, because remember, this here, the logic to transition to run is if move is greater than 0. So when I hit the D key or the right arrow key, it's going to be 1. But what happens when I run left? It's going to be -1. But we don't have an equal opportunity here. So we are basically telling it if it's less than 0.1, go to idle, which means that if I'm running to the left, the value is -1. Well, -1 is certainly less than 0.1. So while we run left, it's going to transition to the idle animation. That's not what we want. So to fix this, we can basically get the absolute value of the negative number, which will turn it into a positive. So we'll come back here, and we're going to basically say mathf.abs for absolute value, and we're going to place this move value in it. So no matter what the move value is, it's going to grab the absolute value. This script here is pretty much done. What we need to do now is call it from our player script. So here we need a handle to player animation. So we're going to say private player animation. So the component we want, or the component we want, and we're going to call this player anim. And actually, we are already in the player, so we can actually just call this anim. So here we're going to say private player animation. This is our anim. And then we need to now assign that handle to the component that we want. So the component we want is the player animation script, which is on the same object. So here we're going to say anim equals get component, and the component we want is player animation. Now that we have that, we can initialize it. And where do we want to call this move method? Well, we're going to do it right here. Rigidbody.velocity equals the new y. This is basically where our velocity is getting set. Now, realistically, this velocity should be at the bottom of the move method, because if we jump, we want to account for whatever our rigidbody.velocity.y is. So here we have our move. We check if we jump, and then here we're saying rigidbody.velocity equals this information. So what we're going to be passing in, though, is literally this float move. So check out what's going to happen when we do this. So we're going to say after we move, let's also get the animation going. So rigidbody.velocity is equal to whatever the input is, and we're also going to move our character with that input. So here we're going to say anim.move, and we're going to pass in our move value that comes from our input.getAccess. So this move variable comes from this guy. So if I hit the right arrow key, then it's a value of 1. It's going to send a 1 into this move method. And if we check out that move method, you'll see here that it is then mapped to the move parameter, and it's going to provide that value, which we have transition logic to determine based on that value what it's going to do. If we save this, if we head back into Unity, when we move, we should now transition to between run and idle. Right now we're in idle. As soon as I start moving, you can see here that we transition to run. Now, there was a delay in the transition, and this is an important issue to note because the fix for this is really simple. Right now, you can see here that right now we're moving. So here you can see here that right now we are in idle, and if I hit the D key, I move before anything happens. It's actually waiting till the idle animation finishes before it transitions me. That's because if we look at the transition here, it has an exit time. This exit time means that it must wait before transitioning to run, We don't want it to. We want it to transition to run immediately. Same goes for idle. If I stop running, I don't want to wait till my run animation finishes to go to idle. I want to go to idle immediately. So make sure that has exit time is off. If we run this, you'll now see that it's more responsive. You can see here that as I run left, I'm running, and as I run right, I'm running, and as soon as I stop, I go to idle. Now you'll notice though that I move a little in idle state. Like the transition is better, but it's not 100% fluid and responsive. And the reason for that is because if we stop playing and check on these transitions, we already got rid of the exit time, but now there are transition settings. The transition duration between going to idle and run, do we want to fade that animation? The answer is no. We just want a 0 duration. We want it instantly to occur. There's no transition fade here. If we were going from walking to run, then yeah, we might want some transition, but we're not transitioning or fading between idle and run. We want it to snap between those animations. So you're going to do the same thing. Select your run transition. Transition duration is going to be 0. That way we go instantly from run to idle. Save your scene, run the game, and now we have a very responsive, very fluid character movement system. So as you can see here, we're going to have to get into additional topics such as flipping our sprite in the next video. But currently we have our player, very smooth, very fluid, very responsive, and of course we can jump, and we'll get into adding more animations later. For now, let's go ahead and focus on flipping our sprite. I'll see you guys in the next video.